Shock in France as right-winger Le Pen scores election upset. Pulling back, Sharon says Israeli offensive is over for now. And honouring John Thaw, his widow picks up his BAFTA award.
The ITV Weekend News with Mark Austin.
Good evening. There was a huge upset in the French presidential election tonight when exit polls predicted that the far right-wing leader Jean-Marie Le Pen will come second to Jacques Chirac and win through to the final round. The official results are expected to confirm that Le Pen has beaten the socialist Prime Minister Lionel Jospin, who this evening has already announced his intention to quit politics. Lauren Taylor reports.
A roar of approval at the headquarters of far-right-wing leader Jean-Marie Le Pen and shock around France as news came through of a massive upset in France's presidential election. Mr. Le Pen is now through to the second round against the current president, Jacques Chirac. There was horror and tears at the socialist Prime Minister Lionel Jospin's headquarters as the man whom everyone had expected to get through to the final round was pushed out of the running.
En tête, Jacques Chirac, 20% des voix, énorme surprise, Jean-Marie Le Pen.
In the television studios, the commentators talked of thunderbolts and earthquakes as the projected figures showed the extreme right-winger Le Pen on more than 17%. With 16 candidates in all, Mr. Jospin lost much of his vote to far-left parties. Another factor was an extremely high abstention rate, just under 30%. Visibly upset, he said he took responsibility for the defeat and would withdraw from political life after the presidential election.
Et j'en tire les conclusions en me retirant de la vie politique après la fin.
The shock is just how far the extreme right has risen. Mr. Le Pen is virulently anti-immigration and once described the Holocaust as a detail of history. Jacques Chirac is still expected to win in the second round on May the 5th. A choice now between the right and extreme right. And now everyone will be watching an election previously dismissed as boring. Lauren Taylor, ITV News.
Israeli tanks and troops withdrew from large parts of the West Bank today after a violent 3-week occupation. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon said this stage of their offensive was now over. But tonight, troops are still surrounding Yasser Arafat's compound in Ramallah, and there's still no end in sight to the church siege in Bethlehem. Andrea Catherwood reports.
Israel says its 3-week offensive in the West Bank is over, and today the tanks rolled out from Nablus, the largest city, and from Ramallah, although Yasser Arafat's headquarters there is still heavily guarded. In their wake, they left destruction. These incursions were aimed at rooting out the terrorist networks responsible for more than 50 suicide bombings. In Jerusalem, Ariel Sharon said it had achieved very notable accomplishments. But in the rubble of Jenin, the refugee camp that saw the bloodiest battles of this offensive, rescue workers are still digging out bodies. And the international community is raising serious concern about Israel's use of force here.
It's very troubling, and I don't know what we'll find. Assistant Secretary of State Bill Burns went in for 3 hours on Friday, and his report to me was disturbing.
Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity is still under siege from Israeli forces. At least 200 armed Palestinians are holed up inside. But mostly the tanks are gone. Israel has brought this offensive to an end, but it says there will be new tactics as it wages its own war against terror. Andrea Catherwood, ITV News.
Police say 2 people have been charged tonight with the murder of the pensioner Marie Watson, who died after being mugged in Newcastle 2 weeks ago. The 77-year-old widow was attacked on her way home after buying a fish supper. A 19-year-old man and 21-year-old woman will appear in court tomorrow morning, charged with robbery and murder. There were violent clashes on the streets of North Belfast this evening, with police and troops coming under attack from blast and petrol bombs. The violence began when the security forces moved in to separate rival gangs of loyalist and Republican youths on the Ardoyne Road. Troops used riot gear and plastic bullets were fired in an attempt to restore order. The Queen celebrated her 76th birthday today during her first official engagement since the end of the royal family's period of mourning for the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret. The band of the Irish Guards brought a smile to her face as she watched a Scouts parade at Windsor Castle. She stayed at Windsor tonight and has been spending the evening with family and friends. Football, and Arsenal are back on top of the Premiership tonight after beating Ipswich 2-0 and sending them further towards relegation. Moving in the other direction, West Brom earned their place in next year's Premiership, beating Crystal Palace to clinch promotion. They won 2-0. Harry Fawcett watched the action.
Both Arsenal and Ipswich needed a win at Highbury, the hosts to stay on track for the League and Cup double, the visitors playing for Premiership survival. Neither side had many ideas in the first half, Ipswich's Martin Reusser going closest with a header. In the second half, Dennis Bergkamp went closer still, nearly adding to his collection of wonder goals. Sven-Göran Eriksson was in the stands, offering a word or two perhaps of consolation to the injured footballer of the year, Arsenal's Robert Pires. But for a change, it was another Swede making the headlines, Freddie Ljungberg turning well on the edge of the area to strike home Arsenal's first. He then confirmed the win off his knee 12 minutes from time. It took Arsenal a point clear at the top with a game in hand on both Liverpool and Man United. Final score, Arsenal 2, Ipswich 0. At the Hawthorns, West Brom knew a win would see them promoted ahead of their Black Country rivals Wolves. Darren Moore got them off to the best of starts in the 16th minute. The win and promotion were sealed in the second half when veteran striker Bob Taylor cemented his name in club folklore with an opportunist's goal. Crystal Palace showed little of their positive early season form and were largely restricted to long-range efforts. The tension of recent weeks was beginning to ebb away as Albion fans, comedian Frank Skinner among them, awaited the final whistle. When it came, an eruption of noise confirmed Gary Megson's side as Premiership new boys, consigning Wolves to the lottery of the playoffs. Final score, West Brom 2, Crystal Palace 0. Harry Fawcett, ITV News.
The late actor John Thaw was honoured at tonight's BAFTA Television Awards. His widow Sheila Hancock collected the prize he won for his part in ITV's Buried Treasure. It was one of the last roles he played before he died of cancer exactly 2 months ago. Nina Nannar watched the ceremony.
Stars of the small screen gathered to face the cameras tonight for one of the most prestigious dates in the TV calendar, the annual awards handed out by the British Academy. Amongst the guests, Sheila Hancock, the widow of John Thaw, nominated posthumously for the Audience Award. Many were hoping he'd win.
He was so hugely popular, he's irreplaceable, so I think there's a fair chance he might win it.
Well played, Ronald!
Buried Treasure was one of John Thaw's final roles and was nominated for the Lou Grade Award. His programme won, as predicted.
It's very fitting that the last award that John will ever get, and he got a lot, should be one that's voted for by the audience. He would have been absolutely overwhelmed and moved beyond belief at the great wave of love that's come toward my daughters and I since his death.
While there was no disputing the most moving part of the evening, the most controversial was avoided. Channel 4's satire on paedophilia, Brass Eye Special, caused outrage when it was nominated in 2 categories. Tonight, though, it lost out in both. Elsewhere, there was a special BAFTA for the former racing commentator Murray Walker. EastEnders won Best Soap, and pop idol Will Young sang as the programme that launched him picked up the Best Entertainment prize. Nina Nannar, ITV News.
And you can see those BAFTA awards on ITV1 at 8:30 tomorrow evening. And that's the news tonight. From all of us here, a very good night to you.
PowerGen, controlling energy for homes and business. Hello, good evening. Well, it's good news as we go into the brand new week because things are certainly warming up on the weather front. So to put things in context straight away, let's take a look at our latest satellite picture here. We see a whole pile of cloud over northern areas, clear skies further south, but the thing to keep our eye on is this warm air way down to the south, and this is very much heading our way during the next few days. Back to the moment at hand though, and tonight is a case of a band of cloud and patchy rain on the scene. Most places are dry though, some mist and murk lurking around, especially in coastal areas. Now going into tomorrow morning, our Monday morning, the very best of the sunshine reserved for East Anglia as well as the southeast there. Elsewhere cloud, but sunshine coming through that cloud as it breaks up. The exception being the west of Scotland there with bits and pieces of rain more or less on and off during the course of the day. But by afternoon it ought to settle into a fine, pleasant, sunny day for most of us. Although there will be some mist still lurking around coastal areas, especially there in the west. Temperatures are looking good. A high in London of 21, that's the magic 70 in Fahrenheit, around about 16 in Belfast and Cardiff. But those temperatures pegged back on exposed coasts, especially in the windy northwest. That's all from me.
Powergen, controlling energy for homes and business.
Imagine winning £100,000 from the comfort of your own home. All you have to do is ring this number and make the call that could make you richer. The Vault, the only show where you could win £100,000 from your living room. Don't just sit there. Pick up the phone and call us now.
The Vault, coming soon.
The satellite shows a massive cloud over Scotland with a few breaks in the north and west. Tonight will be mild but windy with occasional rain, which will be light and patchy at first in the north. Many eastern parts of the mainland will become dry later, with sunny periods tomorrow morning, while most northern and western areas remain cloudy with patchy rain. It'll stay windy through the day, especially in the north, and early sunshine in the east will gradually fade as cloud thickens from the west. This will bring some patchy rain to the east later, but it'll be mild. Taking a closer look at the weather for tomorrow afternoon, we can see that the Western Isles will be cloudy and very windy with occasional rain, which will be quite light in most northern parts. Cloud will extend inland with hill fog developing, and then cloud will push across the mountains into the east, where there'll be a dry start with sunny periods. These may well linger for most of the afternoon in favoured spots like Dundee, but there is a risk of patchy rain towards evening over the northern mainland. However, Shetland will brighten up after a dull and damp start. The east will also be windy, but it'll be mild, especially around Nairn. Sunshine will soon fade in western places such as Perth, gradually extending eastwards, but Dundee and Fife will stay dry and bright. However, Montrose and Aberdeen will see some thicker cloud with the risk of a few spots of rain towards evening. Rain will move north, leaving most of the mainland dry and mild with sunny periods and easing winds. Shetland will stay windy with occasional rain until Wednesday, while the eastern mainland becomes sunnier. Showers will affect the northwest later, with Thursday becoming cooler and more showery. And that's the weather for the Grampian television area.